On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, the Oklahoma City Thunder just might not be ready for this moment as they fall again late in the clutch. What went wrong for OKC? We're going to talk about it all on today's show.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Thunderpod. Coming to you here from Ball Arena in downtown Denver. So excuse any of the background noise that you might be able to hear. Listen, on today's show, we're talking OKC just unraveling in the clutch yet again. What went wrong for the Thunder? Jalen Williams had a special night, spoiled, and their backs are now against the wall with Denver controlling this series. Now, you know how we do this show. You know, you take the emotion out of it and you look big picture, and we're going to do that tonight in a multitude of different ways. Big picture meaning long-term, short-term, and everything in between. But when you looked at this response game from Denver, you knew it was going to happen. But when you see it unfold in this capacity, it feels like one got away from Oklahoma City just as it did on Monday night. Now, look, I don't think it's as simple as saying like the Thunder should be up 3-0 right now, because had Monday night's game gone differently, then game two goes differently, and you have this butterfly effect, right? But these were two games that you can point to of things that the Thunder just have to clean up if they want to be legitimate contenders in this league. By that same token, legitimate contenders have to go through situations like this. And I'm not talking this time long term. Like, find me the playoff series that was a playoff kind of run that ended in a championship that did not see games along the route to the title be met with adversity, be met with contention, be met with feelings such as this one. Look no further than the Denver Nuggets. If you believe that the Denver Nuggets are in the driver's seat for this series, which they clearly are, having won the swing game 3 here, Denver was buried after game 3 1 round ago. They were buried after game 3. They rallied back to win the series in 7. So, like, you can look at this in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of bad for the Thunder. There's some good for the Thunder. And it's going to come down to what can they clean up. Because even though on the preview show I mentioned I think that the Thunder would lose game 3 and win game 4, you know, they need to be able to clean some of the stuff up that's been a perpetual problem for them through this short-term run. And it starts with the end of the game. And score one for Mark Dignault, by the way, because he said Tuesday at practice that the narrative out of Monday's game, had they not fouled, had Denver hit a 3 because they didn't foul, would have been, why didn't you foul up 3 instead of why did you foul up 3? That's the narrative today. But when you take a step back, it's kind of different situations, and 3 seconds makes the biggest difference here. With this game, the Thunder got to retake a late game execution exam, and they failed it again. Because if fouling up 3 is who you are, why not foul up 3 again there? Kind of regardless of that nature, though, it was 11 seconds to go. It's a tinge above when you would want to, but Aaron Gordon once again comes up clutch with a corner 3 to send this game into overtime. This is a huge counterpoint to the backlash that fouling up 3 got, because if the Thunder simply make their free throws, the fouling up 3 strategy is a great idea, because the pushback from that strategy from Monday night all revolved around, well, you have the best defense in the world. If they hit a 3 and you go to overtime, so what? Now you play overtime. Well, look, overtime is completely different. And the Nuggets laid a massive haymaker, a knockout punch in the first 3 possessions of overtime. So you got your overtime. It made matters worse for Oklahoma City to get that overtime. And again, who knows what that would have looked like on Monday, but these are just 2 examples of the exact same game playing out with 2 different philosophies to attack it, and both of them ending in a loss for OKC, which points to the bigger picture. It's not about the last 15 seconds Monday. It's not about the last 11 seconds in this game in regulation. It's about what led you to get in that spot. Because this is a young Thunder team that got completely ran off the road in overtime, but they could not run a single form of offense for the majority of the second half. They were laboring. It was your turn, my turn. It was hero ball. We'll have more on that with Shai coming up. They were just out of sorts. It was missing the seldom good shots that you did create and then not being able to get into your actions cleanly for the majority of that second half. And in both Denver's wins, it's the same kind of result from the from the first 40 minutes. Oklahoma City creates a lot of good looks in the first game and second game. In the first half, they hit almost none of them. Then when the game does tighten and Denver does tighten the screws defensively and bunker down, now those good shots aren't available to you. And with those good shots no longer being presented to you, you can't create anymore because Denver's playing such good defense. And now you're taking tough shots, and you don't have guys that have hit tough shots before on this stage. You don't have the reliability on this team. And I thought that it was another game to book in the 3-game set so far that illustrated Denver's poise and kind of championship attitude and clutch time experience. Because the bottom line is you got another awful Nikola Jokic game, and you're 1-1 in the awful Nikola Jokic games. That can't happen. These games only come around once in a while. I mean, it's almost as rare as a solar eclipse. But what unraveled the Thunder, again, was not the final 11 seconds. While it is terrible, while it gets a F grade on the clutch time test, you shouldn't have been in that situation with how Jokic was playing. But you were in that situation because you shot 38% from the floor, 25% from three, and 68% from the free throw line. You can't make your threes. You can't make your free throws. You're not going to win. You're just not. And to Denver's credit, their role players stepped up. They shot 40% from three, by far their best shooting game from three, which is another thing that was already baked into this cake of role players typically play better at home. You trusted Denver's role players, as we said on the previous show, to show up. Now, the messy ending kind of clouds the emotions of this, but the reality is the Thunder still have an opportunity to just go do their job and earn a split in Game 4, and now it's a 3-game series, and now you have home court advantage in that 3-game series, which is going to be what the Thunder have to do. But the way this game unfolded, Game 3 feels much worse than how it would feel otherwise, because not only could the Thunder not hit their shots, and nobody really played well on offense except for J-Dub, but they only win fast break points 14-7, which is nice, but they only out-rebound Denver by 2. And I say only because, well, that's a marked improvement from where they were Monday, where they got crushed on the glass. Where did Denver make up the margins? Denver made up the margins by not turning the ball over. There was only 3 more Nuggets turnovers than Thunder turnovers. And that's where Monday we were saying that on this show that, it's not just about what the Thunder can clean up. This is a series. This is a chess match. The Thunder cleaned up their rebounding. They've been really good rebounding the basketball the last 2 nights, the last 2 games. Denver, in this game, cleaned up their turnovers, which allowed them to not only not get blown out, but win this basketball game here in Ball Arena. Even as the Thunder dominate points in the paint, even as they win second chance points, and for the rebounds that they created, they only won the second chance points by 2, but still, they win second chance points, they dominate in the paint, and it's just not enough because the only place the Thunder could hit their shots was in that restricted area. And so you look at how this game unfolded, 15 lead changes, 12 ties. The game stays within 9 points each direction. But Denver makes 16 threes, OKC makes 9. Denver makes 19 free throws on 24 attempts. OKC makes 15 free throws on 22 attempts. That's it. And sometimes this isn't rocket science. Sometimes, for as much as we want to go into this lab and put these games under a microscope and really dive in and dissect them, and I love to do that too, as you all know from listening to the show, we can go back to the series preview and we can talk about how whoever shot the ball better was going to win this series. Shooting the ball better is threes and free throws, and the Thunder have not done that. And the Thunder are now trailing 2-1 in this series, and Denver has a chance to throw a knockout punch in Game 4. Your back's against the wall in Game 4 if you're Oklahoma City. The biggest indictment and the biggest illustration of the failures of the Thunder's offense in Game 3, the Thunder took 104 shots tonight. 104 shots to the Thunder. Denver took 85, and Denver wins the game in overtime. Look, it can really be overlooked what the Thunder did to put themselves in this position to have another clutch time failure. And it also can be overlooked what the Thunder did in the regular season to avoid clutch time. I think that people believe that the Thunder blew out their opponents because they're the only team on the floor trying in the regular season. That's not true. I mean, you can just cite, to quickly move through this, you could just cite the Memphis game at home for the Thunder, where it was a 5-point game or whatever, a tie game with 7 minutes to go, and the Thunder win by 50 billion points down the stretch. But since they blew the game out between the 7-minute mark and the 5-minute mark, and at the 5-minute mark it wasn't a tight game, all of a sudden it doesn't count as clutch time minutes. Why do you think the Thunder have not had clutch time minutes? Because they don't do this stuff. They had the best free throw shooting team in the NBA. They are able to generate better offense than this. They're able to play better defense than this for a consistent period of time for 48 minutes. They couldn't do those things tonight. So I do think that you have to look at this and not just cast it off as, well, the Thunder aren't good in the clutch and they're not tested in the clutch. The Thunder are not doing the things to avoid clutch time in the bookends of this first 3-game set that they did, and that was their bread and butter in the regular season. And a lot of it is completely within their control, right? Guys aren't shooting the ball as good as they were. Now you can point to that and say, is that experience? Is that just streaky shooters that are picking the worst times imaginable to have bad shooting series last year in Dallas, this year in Denver? I could give you experience on 3-point shooting only because they also didn't shoot the ball well against Memphis on the road last round. It just didn't end up mattering because Memphis couldn't put up a fight the way that Denver can. So the 3-point shooting stuff, sure. The free throws, especially missing them at home, and there's still no excuse to miss them here, but the free throws, that is just completely a lapse and a regret for the Thunder in this series. And it could be what unravels them in this series. Because, again, you've gotten 2 bad Jokic games, you're 1-1 in the 2 bad Jokic games. And in those non-Jokic minutes, you saw the Thunder fouling a lot. You saw the Thunder turning it over a lot. You saw the Thunder, kind of lapsing defensively a lot. The Nuggets did not get killed in the non-Jokic minutes. So much so that you can see it from Jalen Williams, who was a -11 in this game, and just completely outplayed everybody on the floor. And SGA, who had the worst game of his career, was a -4. So, it wasn't the Jokic minutes that killed you, clearly, because he had a bad game. It was the fact that you couldn't punish Denver for a Jokic bad game by playing them off the floor whenever Jokic was not there, which is what you did in Game 2. And what you did, frankly, in Game 1. We mentioned it after Game 1. The non-Jokic minutes were great for the Thunder to extend their lead and get that up from a 5 to a 10-point lead, from a 5 to a 9-point lead before these guys came back into the ball game. You didn't do that tonight. That's another controllable thing that you just did not do, even though you can get up in arms about the final 11 seconds of this game, and you can rightfully do that. But when you miss wide open threes, when you have poor half-court offensive output, when you see Alex Caruso, and he's not the only one, but miss layups, it's all interconnected. It all builds upon itself. When the Thunder aren't turning you over, when they aren't being able to push the pace after misses, and Denver's able to get back in transition, which they buckled down on in the second half compared to the first half. These are all things the Thunder themselves have to take care on. And this was a game in which Denver, I think, kind of looked around and was wondering at times why they were even in the contest. And a lot of it was the Thunder left the door open for them. A lot of it was, hey, Denver should feel good about the guys that they have in that locker room. Because you see it tonight, and you see why I was trying to talk Ryan Blackburn off the ledge in our crossover of dude, the Nuggets should feel great about this series. I'm still picking the Thunder in 7, and I'll stand by that still today, because to win in 7, you got to lose 3 times. So, it's Game 4. If the Thunder win Game 4, all of a sudden everyone's feelings about this series and this season change because you feel good about Game 5 in the Paycom Center. So I'll still stick by Thunder in 7. But when Ryan and Lockdown Nuggets and even the Denver Post with Bennett, Denver Post was picking Thunder in 5. When people were picking Thunder in 5, I just didn't understand it because of moments like this, where it's what happens when you get a bad Shai game and a bad Jokic game? Or what happens when those two guys are both out of this world great? Who helps aid them? It can go both ways, and you really trust Michael Porter Jr., who showed out tonight. You really trust Aaron Gordon, who's an absolute dog and has reinvented his game in more ways than one. And you really like the effort from Christian Brown, Jayhawk legend, by the way, no big deal. Christian Brown had incredible resilience for a, let's say, mediocre at best to be nice first half from Christian. Second half, he played with immense force, immense aggression, and it was the little things that he did. Nothing like extremely loud, but it was flying in and tapping out rebounds. It was being able to find crevices, to be a connective passer for the Thunder. I mean, for the Nuggets, who didn't have gaudy assist totals. But if you go back and look at some of these actions that Denver got into, he was swinging the ball around. He was playing really good defense. Once he settled into this game, he was a +6 overall. Like, he wasn't spectacular, but his ability to rebound from what was a bad game from him individually, 37% from the floor, 33% from three, like that stuff is what I think that you can gain whenever Christian was a few years ago when he was in the Fire as a youngster, and now having that experience to lean on, I think helped him in this series so far. But yeah, I mean, Denver has the more proven collective cast of characters, and their depth has not shown up yet in the sense of hurting them. It's another quick turnaround. These teams don't get 2 days off in a row until a possible Game 6 to Game 7 situation. So you look at the body of work, and Denver has won the kind of first 3 games because they were up 2-1, but also because you just kind of throw out game 2 and really look at what happens when you get close games. And Denver has that edge in close games. But that's kind of what we have on the bigger picture of the game. Let's get into some individual performances, including just 2 polar opposite nights. Jalen Williams was insanely good, and SGA had his worst game of his career. We'll talk about that coming up. But first, I want to say right now, but good friends over at DoorDash, go check out DoorDash today, because NBA fans, you know what time it is. Playoff season's underway, and when you get big performances and even bigger rewards come your way for DoorDash in those scenarios, because DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal from Dash Pass. Members during the 25 NBA playoffs can enjoy these amazing offers. When they switch, you save. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece crispy tender combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more, use code Wingstop50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. It's crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid from noon to midnight the day after that 50-point game. Terms and conditions apply. So here's the play. You sign up for Dash Pass right now to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50-plus in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tender combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 or more order. Code Wingstop50. That's Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms and conditions apply. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. J-Dub was special in this contest for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He just was. There's no sweeping this under the rug. J-Dub was out on a mission from the word go, and he did it in versatile ways. And he looked like the regular season form of himself in the postseason, and that's the hardest thing for young guys to start to translate. When the lights get brighter, when the defense gets more intense, when the pressure's on you, J-Dub's done that. And you take a step back, as I love to do, and you survey the body of work from Jalen Williams this postseason, and it's exactly why you preach patience. And I know nobody wants to hear that after the Thunder just blew another clutch time game. But if you're someone who is just so far out on this team after 2 bad clutch opportunities, I think you should really take a beat today. Get away from basketball. Don't even watch the Celtics next week. You probably should, because it's a great game. But don't even watch it. Just take a step back, because you have to evaluate these things as they come and with reality. And I get that it's extremely hard to do. A lot of you have been fans of a long time. I have the privilege of just having this bird's eye view of not being as emotionally invested in as a fan that you guys are. That's not my job to fan, so I'm not going to discount your job to be a fan. But Jalen Williams is living proof of the patience that this Thunder organization preaches, because he was awful in the playoffs last year as a totality. Against Dallas, he was just a nothing offensive player against Dallas for the large majority of that 6-game series that was decided in the margins. And he had a lot of questions coming into year 2. But this is how fast it changed. It took 1 season. It took 1 opportunity for J-Dub in the postseason to learn the lessons of the playoffs and apply them to this year. And I say that because now that you get to take a step back from game 1, he was dominant in that Memphis series. He looked every bit the all-star. He looked every bit the number 2 option. He looked every bit the co-star of a title contending team. just point blank period. And we went through in that, and you can go back and listen to those podcasts for all the different ways that was true. Game 1, he had the worst playoff game of, this run. He had one of his worst playoff games of his career, and the Thunder had a heartbreaking loss. And everybody's calling for J-Dub. Everybody's now out on J-Dub after game 1. Because in the moment, it feels like this has been brewing a long time. It really hasn't. It's really been 4 games against New Orleans, 6 games against Dallas, 4 games against Memphis, and then at that time, 1 game against Denver. Now, Lawton didn't teach us a lot of math, so you're going to have to tally that up for yourself. But that's a short amount of time. And then how does he respond to that with everybody? I mean, people in these comment sections, I think that we have the most rational podcast out there that covers one single team. And even I couldn't talk you off the ledge to not just throw him away after game 1, like he's Woody with Andy after the Buzz Lightyear. And then in game 2, he responds with a great forceful game, and the Thunder have a blowout win. And then in this game, had you won this game, the only thing people are talking about right now is Jalen Williams and how he saved this Thunder season. That's the only thing people are talking about. And the stuff that went wrong, largely out of his control, that's how fast the switch can happen. You have a body of work now of, 4 Memphis games, 7 now Denver games to show you he's a playoff player. He's a playoff player. And he's capable of this. Because he was great off the ball as a great and forceful cutter to start this game. He was great in transition, both as a scorer, but also through that transition lob to Chet, through a lob in the half court to Chet to get the Thunder easy buckets. The 3 ball was falling for him. He was able to hit these tough mid-range jumpers, bumping off contact from the defender, bumping his defender off a spot, and these awkward floaters through the lane that you just have to hit. Like, these are shots that everyone recognizes is hard this time of year, but also everybody expects that of your number 1, your number 2 option, of your main guys. This is the expectation, while everyone grants that it's hard to do. And he's lived to that expectation for 5 of the 7 games this postseason. He's lived to the expectation level. And you take a step back and you realize how quickly that's happened, where he has this elite step through with fancy footwork through the lane. And then you see what you've seen all regular season, that he's vastly improved his handle. He's vastly improved the ability to create for himself. And you saw it show up in this game against Denver, where he's creating off the dribble for his own shot with an offense that's laboring, with an offense that needs saving, and he does it. He hits the massive 3 to put OKC up 100-99. That's a high-pressure shot. That's a shot that has a lot of weight to it, a lot of gravity to it on the road, and he steps up and does it. He had a massive 2-for-2 trip to the free throw line right after it becomes 100-99. And he finishes with 32 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 52% shooting from the floor, and 43% shooting from 3, with 7 for 8 from the free throw line. And I know that nobody wants to hear about the future right now, because all of you just want to live in this misery that was game 3. But the reality is, no matter how this season ends, because we don't know. I mean, for all we know, the Thunder get game 4, get game 5, and win the series. And then they're in the West Finals, and you see what happens from there. But even if this Thunder team ends in a second-round exit, I'd be really cautious with making sweeping judgments, especially about the top guys. Now, we can have conversations about how to fill out the roster and how to improve on the margins, but these top guys, the improvement has been stark from them. And I do think that they have the right guys in place. And you can pick apart certain aspects of all 3 of them, but they're going to be really good really fast. It's only taken 1 failure to get them to be this level of good. How do they respond to this? If this ends anything short of a title, frankly, the team internally, as the players in that locker room, right or wrong, no matter how the season ends, if it's not hoisting the Larry O'Brien trophy, will feel that same hurt and heartbreak of last year tenfold, because last year, again, they wanted to win. Obviously, the players in the locker room wanted to win, and you saw that with the response that they had this summer. But, this was different. This was like a season where you feel like you could win a championship legitimately, and that was just a fun story. So I don't think the Thunder are going to lose this series still. I'm going to stick with Thunder in 7 for now. But I would really hope that no matter what happens, you're able to see what 1 year's difference makes, and that this Thunder team is still in the infancy of what they're trying to do. But SGA was not good enough tonight. And if you want to point to anything, and I think that Shai would be willing to tell you this, if you want to point to anything, you point to Shai. 18 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 7 for 22 from the floor, 1 for 6 from 3, and 3 for 5 at the free throw line. You can't have an 0 for 2 trip in a close game like this as the guy is an elite free throw shooter. And he's a way better player than this. He has the ability to respond. And even in this game, he was able to make some situations happen to help this Thunder team. It wasn't all negative. You saw the post up that he had on an overloaded side of the court to dish one off to a cutting Lou Dort for an easy bucket. Again, where buckets were hard to come by for this laboring offense. But if there was one critique of SGA's game, and we've talked about this before on this show, so it's nothing new. It's nothing reactionary to this game. And the way that we've explained it before is these kill shots that he goes for, where he tries to throw these knockout punches early and often, and he tries to just end a game with 4 minutes left instead of staying the course and staying with the offensive flow that the Thunder used to get to that spot. Like, that happens way too much for him. And we've explained it away in a way that's like, well, if he hits those shots, right? If he hits those step back threes, then all of a sudden we're doing cartwheels on the street in Oklahoma City. But what happens when you're not hitting those shots? And sometimes he doubles down on them. It's one thing to have a heat check every now and again. The 4-minute mark, 13 seconds on the shot clock, step back over Jamal Murray. Like, okay, you can try that. You can do that. You've earned the right, whether you're having a great game or a bad game, to try that. But then the double, triple, and quadrupling down on trying to land this haymaker was puzzling, and I think was a little bit out of character for SGA. And I think that, it looked as though he was really trying for that signature moment. He was trying for that play that will be played for the entire loop of his career. And I would just say that, Shai's one of the best players in this league. Shai's, for my money, a top 3 player in this league. Those moments are going to come organically. You just got to keep playing your style. And I get that this is a very hard thing. And this is like the hardest thing to improve on. And this is where I do think that NBA players are judged unfairly in a way, because had Shai stopped shooting, for all of you crying right now about well, give the ball to JW, he's hot. Had he stopped shooting and the Thunder still lose, the talking point is, well, Shai just didn't want the moment. Shai didn't want the moment. And he does. He wants every moment. He wants to embrace every moment. Had these shots, had one of these shots gone in, that Shai's trying to get this kill shot, then the narrative is what a killer mentality that Shai has, what a clutch gene that Shai has, and what a way to help out his great teammate with J-Dub and pull out this game on the road, and a gutty performance. So, like, the thing that the players get put behind the 8 ball is we just play the results on this. We just are like, well, you know what? If it goes in, it's awesome. If it goes out, it's terrible, and you should stop shooting. But if you do stop shooting, then you're shrinking from the moment. And like, we just have all these different ways to pick them apart. That is kind of unfair to them. My only critique would be, if the first couple don't go down on your step back kill shots, maybe try to get to the rim, maybe try to pass the ball a little bit, maybe try to orchestrate some better offense, and then the gather at the end, the final possession of the game, where he's gathering, clearly looking for a foul, and misses the shot, doesn't get the call either. You to me, you're too good of a player to be looking for a foul there in a spot where the odds tell you that the refs aren't going to try to decide this game on the last Thunder possession of the game. They're not going to try to decide that, especially with the narratives around Shai. I don't think that they're going to blow the whistle there, no matter how much contact that you felt, to where you're so good at making tough shots. You're so good at creating tough shots and hitting them with your shoulder separation, with your step back in the mid range, with your stop deceleration and acceleration and burst to the rim, that you should lean on that stuff more than a gather at the elbow that you try to swing through and get the foul. But that's one shot that I think you would have liked back from Shai. A couple of the threes you would have liked back from Shai. But this was just not good. And he's going to respond to this. Jokic will respond to this. Like these guys are going to be really stellar. You don't really have any concerns about either one of them. That's just the only consistent trend that Shai has to figure out. And that's an incredibly hard thing to do. That's what takes so long for these number one options to get right. It took LeBron a long time. It took Jordan a long time, and everybody down the list a long time. Like, those are the apex players in this league. Whoever's your number one GOAT, those are the apex players in this league. Look how long it took them to win a championship. Look how long it took them to shake the narrative that they can't win. Yes, even Michael Jordan dealt with that narrative, but you especially can hear it with LeBron. After that Dallas series and in series prior to that, like, you have to go through these things if you're the caliber of player that Shai is. He's going through it right now. I'm sure that the takes will not be very reasonable for him. I tried to do a very reasonable job here talking about Shai, but that's kind of where these things lie in for SGA. Coming up, let's talk the big man in the post, Hartenstein and Holmgren and Jokic, and how this game wrapped up for OKC. But first, I want to say right now, but good friends over at Amazon Fire TV, go check them out today because Amazon Fire TV is great, and you want to be able to use it with not only streaming your shows, but here, get this. You can turn that Amazon Fire TV stick into a gaming hub. It's the Amazon Fire TV 4K stick that makes it not only easy to stream shows, but with no console required, you can just grab a paired controller and subscribe to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play with thousands and hundreds of thousands of titles from Xbox, including EA Sports College Football 25, my personal favorite game, where I've already won Tennessee 6 national titles. Go check it out today at Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Unlimited Ultimate subscription and compatible controllers are available with select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube third generation at Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. And the biggest kicker for this to me is that they have a great system in place to avoid latency. I know a lot of gamers worry about that. And then also the travel aspect of it. It's so much easier to travel with this Fire TV stick than it is with an actual console. So go check it out today at Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast. On the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Chet Holmgren had the good and the bad in this game. He starts things with an elite defensive stop on AG, ripping the ball away from him after a block. He hits a three, and he's running the floor exceptionally hard and putting himself in proper position and running the floor on both ends. Like, he's running the floor on the fast break in transition to clean up plays and be a trailer. He's running the floor on botched plays in the half-court offense for the Thunder and getting stops on the defensive end. And then in the second half, he missed some shots. He turned the ball over. The defensive intensity waned for a few possessions. It's not a granular thing, but it was a few possessions where you felt like Chuck had been a little bit better. And then he ends the game with more great defensive output in the closing minutes of this fourth quarter. So it was kind of an all things at once game from Chet. And I think that's, if you want to point to experience, like learning the consistencies and how to produce for 48 minutes at this stage is part of it. 18 points, 16 rebounds, a steal, 3 blocks. The 1 for 6 from 3 hurts. The 7 for 19 overall kind of is attributed to the 1 for 6 from 3. 0 for 8 in the game in total. And Nikola Jokic tonight, 20 points, 16 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks on 25 shots from the floor, and 0 for 10 from 3. And the first opportunity that J-Will got, as J-Will was again the first player off the bench, that J-Will got to defend Jokic, is how the night I think should have gone for Jokic the rest of the way, but it didn't. He gets the ball on the low block. He turns and has this beautiful post fadeaway over J-Will. J-Will is like leaning all over his chest. He's basically in his jersey, and it doesn't matter because Jokic is that good. But from that moment on, Jokic is missing clean mid-range jumpers. He's bricking wide open threes. He picked up 2 fouls early in this game in the first quarter. He's missing lightly contested threes. He's missing wide open threes. But every time the ball left his hands, you're thinking to yourself it's going to go in, and then it just didn't. And that's where I wonder, as Jokic is a non-nonsense kind of player, like he complains to the officials. You can dislike that, whatever. But he doesn't make excuses post-game, whether he had a great game or a bad game. I do wonder about the elbow. If the elbow is hampering him, because some of these shots, man, they should have been going in for Jokic, and they just didn't. And that was the case for both superstars tonight at times. But the question becomes what's going to give. Because if either one of these stars, SGA or Jokic, parlays what's been a slow starting series in totality for them into a epic closeout of this series, then it changes the entire chessboard for both sides. But tonight, I thought the defense on Jokic for the Thunder was good enough. I thought that it was the best you could do because he's still going to get open looks. He's still going to get shots in the mid-range that, yeah, you're there, your hand's in his way, but you don't know how much of that really altered a shot. So I thought that this was a game where if you're Denver, you live with those Jokic shots, and it just so happened to miss. And for OKC, you're glad that they missed, but you also live with your defensive output on him because those shots, some of them in mid-range would have been really tough to hit, much like that J. Will example, where J. Will, like, you live with that J. Will shot that he hits, turning away from J. Will in the post in the low block and throwing up a beautiful post fade. Like, that's a shot that Jokic is going to hit consistently at some point in this series, you have to imagine. And that's a shot that the Thunder can't freak out about, and they didn't, to their credit, and they just stayed the course and continue to defend Jokic pretty well, all things considered, because Jokic was awesome in game 1, but 2 bad games from him in game 2 and game 3. Isaiah Hartenstein had it 0 for 3 with floaters in overtime, and it's going to really sting him. At times, he was part of the Thunder defensive waning, but ultimately, a 10-10 night on 14 shots, like he's got to improve at that part of consistent offensive output, but he had elite plays as well. The elite low man rotation to deter Gordon at the rim. Nuggets lost their mind thinking that was a foul, and it got Gordon a tee. Sure, you can call it a foul, but he put himself in a good position to contest the shot, foul or not. Sometimes you do foul when you're trying to play good defense, but for a large chunk of this game, you played really good defense. You just got bit by the floater. I mean, the floater didn't go down at a high enough clip. And Hartenstein is another one of those what ifs. What if he hits a couple of those floaters down the stretch of this game as the safety net? He just wasn't the net had holes in it, so to say, in this game. I thought that Wiggins gave you pretty good minutes, splitting the defense on a drive to the bucket, hitting an open kick out 3 on a second chance point, getting a huge block at the rim, and cutting to the rim off of a Caruso open corner 3 was brilliant at the end of the first half, where it's like Caruso has this wide open 3 in the corner, and most guys just stand around and watch the ball, let him shoot his 3. Wiggins kept himself alive, cut to the basket just in case, and to Caruso's credit, he passes up the wide open corner 3 to Wiggins for an easy finish at the rim because it's a much higher percentage shot. So he was able to get that done. But it's tough to keep Wiggins out there if you're someone who's wanting more Wiggins minutes. I am a big proponent of Wiggins minutes, but this is just not a matchup for him where the Nuggets have size at every single position, and he really struggles to defend against bigger players. He admits that himself from his own mouth. So if you're a big Wiggins fan, like it's not just me saying that. Like, Wiggins himself is uncomfortable playing bigger matchups, and the Nuggets have the size to force that issue with their rotation. So it's tough to find the exact recipe to have him play heavy minutes in this series. But I thought in the first half he gave you some good stuff. And then Lou, it just simply comes down to 3-pointers. I mean, he battled his butt off defensively. He made life exceptionally hard on Jamal Murray. And to Jamal Murray's credit, he hit very tough shots. But he went 0 for 4 from 3. Big game Lou. Thunder 3-point shot laboring. You need better than 0 for 4. I will give Lou credit. He consistently this year has been a more active relocator and cutter off the ball, and it's paid dividends, like that play we talked about from Shai earlier. But on the next show, because we've already ran long on this one, we'll talk about how does this young Thunder team respond. Again, they have their backs against the wall, what feels like their season on the line, but this time on the road. And is this team capable of winning in the clutch? I think that answer could surprise you tomorrow, so make sure you tune in for that on Locked On Thunder. Subscribe anywhere you podcast from, including on YouTube. Until next time, go check out Locked On NBA and be good to one another.